Hey guys, welcome back to Data Products. In this video is a continuation of our Twitter sentiment analysis. We're going to actually use the access token that we had created in the previous video where we created a academic Twitter API account or a developer account, and we got our API access. And we're going to pull some tweets. So this will be somewhat short. It's just going to be pulling tweets and saving them so I can kind of show you how we did it. I'm not going to pull all the tweets because there's no point, since I don't want to spend my 10 million still. Like, I'll never use 10 million, but it's just repetitive after that, right? And I'll show you how to do the differences. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. So for this, I'm just going to do an R script. I'm not going to do a markdown script just because you're not going to have to include this in your portfolio thing. So first thing I want to do is I want to set my working directory to source file location. Actually, I have to save it first. Passport, data products, text mining, API download. Let's call the file that. All right, so then I want to set working directory to source file location, and I'm going to copy this and just put it up here. And then what I'm going to do is let's pull the Twitter API package, which is built into R, which is nice. And so if you don't have it installed and you want to do this, like I said, if you're doing this on Praxis, don't worry about it. We're not going to use the API package. You're just going to load the CSV files because you need the API account, yada, yada, yada. But it's called Academic Twitter. Is that spelled right? Academic Twitter with a capital R. And so then we're going to do library academic Twitter to load it. So let's just run these real quick. Okay. And so the next thing is we're going to use that bearer token, right? And so I'm just going to, like I said, I'm just going to copy and paste it because this is what it looks like. So to type that out is going to, there's no way. If you've watched my videos, there's 0% chance that I type that and don't make a mistake. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to run this. So we're just saving this into our environment so we can call it later. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say our tweets 20 US. So that's the variable. It's our tweets in 2020 in the United States. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this get all tweets command, and we're going to say it has COVID-19 and has geo. So geo means a geolocation, right? So it's a tweet that has some sort of location data to it, right? Because we want to make sure that we only get tweets that are from the United States, because we're comparing the United States, Canada, and Great Britain. I did United States, Great Britain, and Australia. For some reason, Australia has very few tweets using COVID-19. Either A, they call it something else, or B, Twitter's not as big in Australia as it is in other places. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a cultural sociologist or whatever it would be. I have the answer to that. Okay, so we said it's got to have COVID-19 and have geolocation data. Then we are giving it a date. So we're doing so this is 2020, the 6th month, so June, the first day, and then time of 1 o'clock to 2020, 06 08, so we're gonna do 7 days. And the time, you could put whatever time you want. Like, you want to do, I just picked 1 because that was the default. This should be a 0. There we go. T01. Yep. Okay. I just wanted a week time frame, so what time you start and stop doesn't really matter. And then we're going to say use our bearer token, right? So we don't have to type out this long thing again, because we're going to use it multiple times. So we save it as a variable. It saves us a lot of typing. How many tweets are we going to pull? We're going to pull 5,000 tweets. And then our country, and these use the 2-letter codes. I forget what they're called. 2-letter country codes. Alpha 2 codes. So as you can see here, we picked Canada is where's Canada? CA. Is Great Britain under here? No, it's probably the UK. The United States is US, and the Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, so that would be GB. But you can use any country, right? That's all it asks for. So we're going to say US. And then we'll do tweets 21 US. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. And I'm going to change this to 21, but I did, so we want January. So we change it to 2021, so we have 2020 in June, 2021 in January, and then we're going to do, I'm just going to copy this again, and we're going to do 2022 in January as well. I would have liked to do 2021 in January, but as I said in the previous video, there was no tweets came up that had COVID-19, because at that time, remember, we're like, oh, there's this weird virus in Wuhan, and you know, maybe I don't even think we got our first cases till like March in the United States, if I remember right. But no one was calling it COVID-19, at least on Twitter. So yeah, so I did June because things came up. Okay, so we did our bearer token. I'm just gonna run these 3 commands here. And it takes a second because you're accessing a remote server. It's looking through, querying this database, and there's thousands of tweets it's looking through because it's finding those dates, and it says, okay, I found the dates first. Now let's find all the tweets that have, I don't know what it does second, geolocation. And so get rid of everything that doesn't have geolocation. And then it says, out of those tweets, let's find the first 5,000 that have COVID-19 mentioned, and then put them together in a file to send back to me. So as you can see here, it's doing all these different queries, and once it gets to 5,000, it says, okay, stop, and go on to the next query. So it says, okay, now I'm going to look for 2021, and then I'm going to look for 2022. So it takes a second. You can imagine if you're going to do more than 5,000 tweets, if you're going to do 10,000 tweets, or if you do a date range much bigger, then it may even go slower. But it's relatively fast. It's surprising. Like, I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s, and so, dial-up internet, and, if you wanted to download a song, it would take, you could be waiting a couple hours, and so now it's like, oh, I'm going to access this remote database of millions and millions of tweets and search for the specific ones I want and get that sent back to me over the internet, and the time it takes for me to ramble and relegate you with stories of how old I am. So there we go, just like that. And as you can see, so this one, tweets, 2022, we had a lot less. So we're still going to stick with this. I think that we had a bit less for one of our things before. But I just want to show you what this data looks like now before we get into the sentiment analysis. So as you can see, we get a bunch of different stuff from it, and we're only going to use the ID of the tweet, the timestamp of the tweet, and the tweet itself. But you also get things like if it was replied to, if that tweet was replied to, how many likes the tweet had. So this one had 47 likes, some of them have 0 likes. If it was quote tweeted, when it was created, they have a conversation ID and an ID. I don't know what media keys are. If it had a poll attached to it, because you can put polls in your Twitter, a place ID and the geo coordinates, the language it was in. So most of these, as you see, you have an Indian one. Don't know what QME is. But mostly English is what we want, because like I said, I was getting a lot of Spanish when I did this without geolocations. And these are like nested tables too. So like within here, these entities, we have mentions if it mentioned another individual. We have hashtags, possibly sensitive. I don't know how they determine that. But this is what we want to do with the tweet. So because of the economic fallout from COVID-19, every police department in the country is already under pressure to cut their budget, or at least rethink their annual ask for increased funds. Our challenge is to force them to cut at a level above and beyond every other city department. So this must be like during the Black Lives Matter thing, if they're asking them to cut more, which is an interesting kind of like co-variable in this whole thing. Did Yolanda just claim to be the first person to have COVID-19 through community transmission in the U.S.? Hashtag 90-day fiance. Okay. The author ID, the referenced tweet. So if it is itself a reply, not if it was replied to. If it was itself a reply. The source, so you can say this was from an iPhone, this was from Android. Does anyone use iPad? Does anyone use a computer? Instagram. I know you could tweet from Instagram. Interesting. Agora Pulse app. I don't even know what that is. Instagram. Most of the people on their phones, it looks like. dlvr.it. Anyways, sorry, I can get lost. Like, as you've noticed throughout this course, like, I can get lost in looking at data. Such a nerd, right? Already with the dad jokes, and then it's like, I love data, I'm gonna spend time just looking at people's tweets that I pulled. Anyways, so from this, I just wanted to show you what is available. So when I give you the data, I've stripped most of this off. So I'm just gonna give you, like I said, the ID of the tweet, the date of the tweet, and the tweet itself, because it makes it manageable for our sentiment analysis, and we don't have to like, there's so many columns to like pick the right column. And the one thing I noticed, and I don't know why this is that when you pull these, sometimes I want to see if I can show you real quick. Let me go back to the work camera here. I don't know why this is, and I don't know if it's a date thing, if like Twitter changed their setup at some point. So if you look at this, this is tweets 20 US, right? So our first column is in reply to user ID, then we have our retweet count, then we have a reply count, right? So that's for the 2020 data. If we look at the 2021 data, our first column is, are these the same? No, see, they're different. So the first column is retweet count, reply count, like count. And then for the first one, it's user ID, retweet count, reply count, like count. So the columns are off, right? So in our 2021 data, this in reply to user ID is somewhere else. or it doesn't exist even. But then if we look at 2023, then we have conversation ID is the first column, our language is the second column, retweet, reply, like. So it's kind of a mess. They like don't match up. And so lucky for you Praxis folk is I like you, and I've gone through and I've cleaned the data. So that's one thing that you're gonna have to pay attention to with these APIs, is does your data come the same way every time you pull it? Like, is there a standard format that Twitter or Reddit or Meta or whoever else uses that every time you pull data, the columns are the same? Because when I ran the sentiment analysis the first time, it was like my words were all like this gobbledygook, and it was because it was the geoplace location that I was measuring sentiment for instead of the text of the tweet, because the columns got all screwed up. And so, yeah, it's always a good thing, and this is kind of a lesson for the entire data products course is, garbage in, garbage out. You got to make sure you take a look at what your raw data looks like before you start processing it, and make sure your files are all in the same order and same format, because it can give you a lot of headaches if not. So, okay, so that's it for how you use the Reddit API. See, all you need is a bearer token for this. If you use a non-academic Twitter package, like there's another one called maybe it's just called TwitR instead of academic Twitter. That package, I believe you needed to use like the access token and the secret token. But for the academic one, all you need is the bearer token. And so if you want to play around with it, you can. You can change the countries, you can do that stuff. You have to get an account first. And like I said, sometimes, depending on how busy they are, it takes a little bit of time. But from here on out now, you can just load the tweets that I've cleaned for you and have put in the starter folder, and we'll jump into the actual sentiment analysis. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. Let's get into some Twitter sentiment. It's a cesspool, so hopefully we're probably going to see a lot of negative sentiment, but it is what it is. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.